I hope that when people see my work, they get some kind of imagination for living things and an imagination for a way of seeing what's in the outside world or what could be but was never actually made. I'm Brendan Monroe, and I'm an artist. I often want to capture these things in some kind of development or some kind of in-between state. And at the same time, I want the final piece to almost look as if it could turn into something else very easily. This collaboration started with Heath Ceramics because Heath knew how to make the molds really well, and I knew how to do the wood sculpting really well. But I didn't know clay that well, so this was kind of my entrance to clay. Each one starts with first a drawing, pencil on paper, then a polymer clay, oven-baked clay sculpture. That sculpture I'll bring to the wood shop, and then I'll carve a piece out of wood. That wood piece will then go to the mold maker, who makes a plaster mold. Then from the plaster mold, we can make a ceramic casting. Then that ceramic casting will be fired once, that's the Bisque fire, and then after the Bisque fire, you can glaze the sculpture, and then the last firing is the glaze firing. After the glaze firing, the piece is finished. Everything is based on a pencil on paper and an idea. These are my very loose and rough sculpture sketches. So when I do the drawings, I try to hold on to the looseness of the drawing. I try to keep that in the sculpture when I transfer the drawing to the sculpture. And I don't draw too much further before I actually make the piece. The original wood forms are like this, with no legs, just a solid block. And really, the attention is on the form. And these are the plaster molds that Heath made. And then they'll cast all the legs separately and all the bodies separately. We'll attach the legs in different places and at different positions so that we can have a lot of motion, or one might be walking, one might be standing, one might be sort of like jumping or something. It could be a lot of different things. And then this is the final form with no glaze on it, a Bisque fired form. So after the first firing, but before the glaze firing. Each form is kind of developed in a way so that I could play with the glazes in different ways. For example, this form is very flat on top, and the glaze would sit as it's poured and sort of stay there. It becomes really heavy on top and then cracks up in different ways, where versus this is very tall and slender, and the glaze would almost like slip off. And each shape has a sort of characteristic that lends itself to that like motion that the glaze makes while it's heating at temperature, or the temperature where it's liquid in the kiln. Part of making art for me is really sort of using the materials to their best benefit. So sometimes there's good ways to sort of transfer your drawings to three-dimensional objects, and sometimes there's not. The experimenting part of it dictates a little bit of what the end result's going to be. You shouldn't be afraid to try something new and fail with it 3 or 4 times before you get it right. And I think that giving yourself the time and energy to be able to do that will only make the end pieces much better.